Hi, everybody. Happy Friday, or as always, whenever it is you are listening to this. I was reflecting on Nick Prattley's episode earlier in the week, and he and I talked so much about energy and how it flows. And, obviously the breath has a lot to do with that, but it started me thinking about how I am an empath, but I am not the type of empath that takes on everyone else's emotions. I just can feel energy pretty quickly when I walk into the room, but I don't take it on. I can keep it separate from myself. And then it reminded me of how my wonderful woman, Miss Breezie J, is actually the opposite. And she's an empath, but she is a psychic empath where she absolutely takes on energy, and how that can really cause, I guess, like it elevates stress levels, because then other people's feelings, emotions, energy become your own. And it's been really cool to watch her with her journey through this and discovering this gift that she has and figuring out how to cope with stress. So instead of me telling you all about what she's doing, I thought, why don't I just give the people what they want and bring Miss Breezy J back onto the podcast? So, hi, honey. Welcome.
Hello, babe. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. So, I want you to tell us, obviously, you know what it's like to live in your brain, when you walk by. And I mean, she'll tell you some stories about like what she means by she's a psychic empath. Like we could be walking by somebody, and if they're hungry, she's hungry. And so I want you to kind of talk about what your like journey as an empath is becoming for you, just in case people are, listening to this and being like, oh my gosh, that's me.
Yeah. So I'm pretty early in my journey, and I actually didn't even know really what the word empath meant until probably about a year ago. Like I'd heard the term thrown around, but I was like, oh, empath, cool, cool, cool. And then a friend of ours and you, my love, started telling me wait, you're totally an empath. And I'm like, I am. And so it was this whole journey of self-discovery and self-awareness that a route I hadn't gone down, because I was like, oh, I'm a very self-aware person. That was one of my strengths. I took pride in it. And then I was like, oh shoot, this is like a whole other ballgame. So yeah, what I just remember when I was younger and growing up is always, like feeling physiological changes in my body, emotional changes, energetic changes when someone else was feeling something. And so whether it was happy, sad, and I always just thought it was like I was a connector and I fed off of the energy of other people. But actually, it's not just that, it's so much more. And it's sometimes not something you can control or I can control. And yeah, an example would be just walking down the street or being at home, and your energy or random strangers' energy can totally just hit me, and I start to take it on and I feel it, and I start to change my energy into that person's energy. Even if I'm having the best day, or if I'm having a terrible day, and it can flip it into having so much energy. And it's just kind of a wild ride sometimes. And so for me, it's just been a lot of, like I said, self-awareness and learning about it, and just learning about me. And when I start to feel that way, or I feel triggered by something out of my control.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I don't know. I honestly can't, when we say can't relate, I really can't relate to that because, like I said, for example, if Breezy comes home in a weird mood, or if she's having a day and she walks in the door, she doesn't even have to say anything. And this drives you nuts. I know this drives you nuts, right? Because she'll walk in the door and I will immediately be like, go run, because your energy is crazy. And I really need you to I need you to dissipate it, because you just came in here with some crazy shit going on.
And I'll sometimes be like, what are you talking about? No, I don't. And then I'll stop for a second, pause, and be like, oh yeah, whoa, I do have all this energy. and I don't know where I took it on from, like whether I was just on the phone with someone from work or on the phone with someone, in my family, and I took on their nervous, anxious, upset energy, and I just don't even realize sometimes I'm wearing it, and I wear it on my sleeve. And so finding out when that happens, and then the next like part of discovery is just figuring out how I cope with that stress or that energy.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that. So and I guess if you're listening out there right now and you're like, oh my gosh, this girl has my number. That is exactly how I feel all the time. My question, I guess, to you, babe, and then if you're listening out there, and you can absolutely come find us on Instagram. I'm Danielle _ on the daily. Breezie is breezy.j. And like weigh in on this for us. But if that's you, if you're more of a psychic empath where you take on other people's emotions, do you feel like that exacerbates tiny stressors in your life to become giant stressors that maybe don't have to become as big and grand as and large? Like, do you feel like that's the case?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Like I said, I could be having a great day worrying about my own stuff, which stresses me out to begin with. And then it's like I take on someone else's energy unintentionally. And then my own life stressors are definitely exacerbated. Um, and what I've learned is I just have to be hyper aware of myself. And when I get into those spaces and when I get into those moods or those energies, and then I'm starting to learn what really helps get me out of those. And for me personally, I mean, everyone is different. So this might work for you, this might not work for you. But breath work has been a game changer. And Nick Pratley actually is an amazing resource. He's such a great educator in that field. And so I follow his Instagram and everything he shares to learn more about breath work. And then I use an awesome app called Open. It's was started by a Southern California local guy. He is incredible. I think there's a team of people that started it. But anyway, they have awesome on-demand classes or um, live classes. And so I've learned a lot about breath work and how that physical release of breath like physically releases energy for me. And so I take breathwork classes, and then sometimes throughout the day, I've just learned what breathing techniques help me. And so I'll just do them randomly. And then movement is the other big, big one for me. Um, that just helps me to cope with it and helps me to physically release the energy that I take on for other people, and then go back to being like, okay, this is my energy, this is what I keep, and this is what I have to like deal with in other ways. And then the physical release to just get out the other stuff that I'm taking on.
That's awesome. I mean, I think if you're listening to this, earlier in the week we had Nick Pratley's episode. So you can go back to the show notes of that episode and click the redirect that's in our show notes, which will take you to Nick Pratley's website, but it'll have a discount code in there just by clicking the link, and you can kind of dive into some breath work or meditation practice. I don't know if you feel this way, Breeze, but you know, the type of, because I'm huge into movement. I wish I was better at meditation and breath work. It's something I'm very much working on and on a journey toward. But currently, what works for me when I start to feel other people's energy or just have a stressful day or just have a lot of things pile up that maybe, I don't feel able to cope with. I believe in movement tenfold. However, what I'm starting to realize lately is that I have to be very selective and protective of which movement that I choose to do that day. Because I obviously am a soul cycle instructor, so cardio is like my jam. But what I'm starting to realize is when I have those days where everything just feels like too much and there's a lot of energy circling around me, which there's a lot of energy circling around all of us all the time. Energy flows, right? It doesn't die, it doesn't go away. It just flows. And so if you are an empath of some sort, chances are you take that energy on, or you can at least see that energy or feel that energy or recognize that energy. And that's why I think that like most people have some sort of empathic gift. Anyway, I have to be very selective as to which movement that I do. So if I'm feeling some type of way, it's not always cardio that'll do it. It's not always Barry's boot camp or like some hit workout that'll do it for me, or working with my trainer and doing Muay Thai and jujitsu. Sometimes it's literally just a yoga class, a yin restorative yoga class. Sometimes it's just laying on my back in Shavasana and, maybe moving my wrists and ankles. But I'm learning that movement is fluid, as Nick and I talked about in our episode. Like, movement is such an integral part of healing energies and just kind of moving energies through the space and raising vibration. So, Breeze, I'd love to know, what advice, you kind of already said it, but if you're out there right now and you're listening to this and you're just thinking like, this is you, and maybe you couldn't ever put a word to it, know that like Breezy and I are very much still in our journey. And it's really easy to look at somebody on Instagram or listen to their podcast and be like, oh my gosh, they have it all together. They have their life figured out and I don't. And so I suck. Know this and like, hear me so clear if you're out there and this is registering. We do not have it all figured out. We are very much still on our journey. We might be further along in our journey than you are currently in yours, which is okay. There are a lot of people that are further along. Nick Prattley, I believe, is further along in his journey than I am. And so this is why, like, look for people. My advice is like, look for people, like look for mentors, look for people that you can kind of lean on or look to help you navigate through, the path that you're on. But Breezy and I do not have it all figured out. We are just giving advice from our experience where we sit now, which, has been a long one. Like, where I am today is a culmination of a lot of things that have happened and I've had to move through. So Breeze, I'd love to know, before we let them go on with their day, what would be your advice for somebody who is feeling like they are very much like stuck right now? Because I know you said like you're very much still in your journey and maybe less further along than I am. So what would be your advice for somebody in those shoes currently?
Oh, yeah. I'm like super early in my journey. I don't even know if I'm saying the right type of empath I am. I literally have just been in a whirlwind of stressors and just, I would say, in the thick of things lately. And so my journey is super raw and super new, but I'm just like learning a lot about myself. And I think that's the first step, is the awareness of what the heck is going on with me today, because every day can be completely different. And so just learning that awareness and giving yourself time to like feel what's going on with you that day. And like, then you can start to separate what's yours to take on, what shit I'm actually dealing with. Like for me personally, it's like finances, it's my next job, career move, it's family stuff, like that's all my stuff. And then it's like, okay, I can separate that from, oh my gosh, Danielle told me this crazy story that happened, or I saw someone on the street that really needed my help and I couldn't help them in that moment. Like that, those are outside stressors that I take on that I don't need to. And so just filtering those, and then remembering, as soon as I get triggered, as soon as I get to that like tipping point where I am way too much anxiety or way too stressed out, that I do know now what helps me. And so I just force myself to go to it, whether it's a few breaths or whether it's just like moving and stretching instead of standing, or whether it's like going on a run, going to a workout class, like something that helps me to really just get it out, release it, and let it go. And then forgive myself for letting things, get to that point. So I think forgiveness is another huge piece of it.
Thank you for sharing that and giving everybody your words of wisdom today. I know this episode is a little longer than our normal Unplugged, but I do know how much the On the Daily family loves when Miss Breezy J makes an appearance. So thank you for coming on. Thank you out there for listening to us. Anything you want to say?
Nah, you're just too much. And thank you for the love.
You're cute. As always, go subscribe if you haven't. Share this with somebody who might need it. If you know an empath in your life that maybe like you think could just benefit from hearing our advice, share it with them. Go back and listen to Nick Pratley's episode. Definitely use the code in our show notes, or the link in our show notes to get a cool discount on his new website that has all sorts of breath work and meditation. And then we will be back on Tuesday with another interview. I am so grateful for this community. I'm so grateful for this podcast. And I'm so grateful for you, whoever you are, wherever you are. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you soon.